Now, I have a question. Temporary structure has to be removed or apartment. I'm not sure I understand. Is there a temporary apartment you can build?
No, there's also a provision for family apartments, okay?
Attached to your own house or part of your house?
It makes no difference whether it's attached or a physically separate structure under our ordinance. It can be either or.
Okay.
Under that provision, there's no requirement that the structure be removed, but after 3 years that structure can actually be rented out. So that's less stringent than the one being requested.
All right. Well, I just asked that for clarification, just to make sure I understood.
Yes, sir.
This is for Mr. Moreno's father who has a issue, and that's okay. You're good. And we hope in that sense he would have to renew this every 5 years for quite a long time, because that would mean his father's still here. Mr. Taylor, this is in your district. I'll allow you to make the motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would move that we approve the request for the shared drain field for the residential property due to the medical hardship as requested.
Second.
Second. Motion made by Mr. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Akers. Is there discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Best of luck to you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. We have scheduled a closed meeting at 7 o'clock, which should be over at 7:30. Mrs. Hall, would you by any chance have sign-up sheets? Okay. Is everybody here to talk about the variance at the school, at the high school? Didn't think so. If you're here to talk about the sand and gravel public hearing, anybody here to do that? Okay, a few? Okay. We are going to have a sign-up sheet. What we are going to do is try to make sure everyone signs the sign-up sheet as they float around. We will call people directly off the sign-up sheet when we begin the public hearing at 7:30 when we come back. So Mrs. Hall has the sign-up sheet, and she'll start it down there. And then we can go into public hearing. Public hearing.
Public comment.
No, we can go into closed session right now, if you'll make that motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board convene in closed meeting pursuant to the consultant with legal counsel and briefings by staff exempt from section 2.2-311A7 of the Code of Virginia regarding specific legal matters regarding legal advice and the SEC's continuing disclosure cooperation initiative as it affects issues of municipal bonds.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Black. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion carries unanimously. We will be in closed meeting. We need a motion to come out of closed meeting first.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Black to come out of closed meeting. Discussion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. That motion carries unanimously. Mr. Taylor, you certify that only those things we went into closed meeting to discuss were discussed.
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Black, do you certify?
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Underwood. I so certify, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Akers.
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
Mr. Seeley.
Mr. Chairman, I so certify.
And I so certify, so only the things we went into closed meeting to discuss were discussed. We do have action from the closed meeting. Mr. Seeley has a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to adopt the continuing disclosure compliance policy.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion's made by Mr. Seeley, seconded by Mr. Taylor. This is regards to the county reporting when we take out bond withholdings and things of that nature. Discussion on the motion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. We will now continue with the regularly scheduled portion of our agenda. At this point, we are at what's called the public comment section. This is an, if my English teacher's here, this is an agenda item that we have placed to allow citizens to speak about any issue in the county. We do this at every meeting, but it's only on issues that are not being handled in terms of public hearings. So the public hearings we're doing tonight are for the school board, expansion, and the Cheney mine. So if you would like to speak to the board on any other subject, you now have the opportunity. So is there anyone who would like to take advantage of the public comment section of the agenda? Is there anyone who would like to speak as part of public comment? Yes, ma'am. When you come down, state your name and your voting district, and it's not about Cheney and it's not about the school.
It is about the school.
But it's not about...
Not about the school construction project.
No.
Yes, ma'am. Go right ahead.
Okay.
Tell us your name and your voting district, and you have 3 minutes.
My name is Wendy Shiflett, and I reside in the Port Royal District. I appreciate the Caroline County Board of Supervisors allowing me the opportunity to speak tonight. I know that the school board is elected separately and is autonomous over matters of the school. However, the serious issues in our schools have implications for every county citizen, whether they have children in our schools or not, and you gentlemen represent those citizens. Our children began their education in the county when we relocated here in 2005. We currently homeschool 2 of our children. We also have a child who has severe autism who attended a public school here in Caroline until a change of placement in his IEP occurred in 2012. On the occasions that we have advocated for our children's rights within the school system, there were numerous repercussions for my family. As I speak, I have real concerns of what those repercussions will be. My husband and I will respond to any further repercussions from the school district using legal avenues. I believe there are many illegal paths the school district undertakes every day, and I'm going to discuss just a few. I have filed a formal complaint with the U.S. Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights. I have requested an investigation into the school district's compliance with Section 504 and Title II. I have filed the complaint on behalf of the many Caroline County students who, due to their particular disabilities, are unable to participate in regular physical education, art, and music class. I allege the school district has denied these 3 classes to this group of students since 2006. I allege some of these students are brought to the gym by their teacher aides, where they sit on the gym floor given nothing else to do but watch the other children play for the entire class, while other children never get to leave their classroom, not even for lunch. I allege the school district has willfully concealed these acts from noncompliance from the students' parents. I allege the school district keeps this information from the parents by falsely recording a grade on the student's report card, such as a BGL for below grade level, or a simple check mark to indicate the child participates, and by falsely recording these classes on the child's IEP as providing the least restrictive environment. I allege the school district denies the parents meaningful participation in their child's IEP by withholding this information, and therefore denies the child an FAPE under the IDEA regulations. These allegations I have made are in violation of many codes and regulations, but more specifically, they are in violation of the school's agreement to collect state and federal funding, which could make the citizens of this county liable to pay a huge price for what the school district fully neglected to do for our most vulnerable children. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Ms. Shifley. Is there anyone else who would like to take advantage of the public comment section of the agenda?
Should I go ahead?
You should tell us your name and
Thank
your
you.
voting district.
Sure.
first.
My name is Don Filsey. I'm in the polling district. And I have a question to ask. When you call the government officials in Caroline County and you don't get a return call back, what should I do?
Which government official are you talking about?
I can
School
tell
board
you-
member, board of supervisors member?
No, not Board of Supervisors.
Okay, you should call the county administrator's office, and that's probably the best place to start.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak as part of the public comment section of our agenda? Is there anyone else who would like to speak? Is there anyone else who would like to speak as part of public comment? Hearing none, the public comment section is closed. Action for Mrs. Schiffley, Mr. Cully, would you or Mr. Parton contact her and find out a few more specifics about the county's possible liability in her discussion? And I'm sure you'll be getting a call. We need to update, I guess the board members might want to update the website, because I think a lot of it has our home numbers as contacts, and maybe that's not the best place to get them, but that may be the case. We'll make sure we put our best phone number out there for folks to contact us. All right, having said that, we are now into the public hearing section of our agenda. We have 2 public hearings. Mr. Fincham, the Director of Planning, will give us an overview on the first one, and then we'll hear from those who would like to speak. And on the, well, Mrs. Hall, you have the public comment rules. Okay. Mr. Fincham, before you start, I'm going to ask Mrs. Hall, just so everybody will understand, and folks, would you do me a favor, please? If you would like to come in to the auditorium, I promise we won't bite you, but I would like you to close that door for the kids that are running back behind you. Now you can come in. Please don't close the door in their face, but, okay. All right, Mrs. Hall is going to read the public comment rules. Please obey the rules.
The public comment period shall be for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board on any matter which is not scheduled for public. Oh, you want the public hearing and not public comment.
I'm sorry, public hearing.
The public hearing comment shall be for the purpose of allowing the public to speak to the board on any matter which is listed on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. To help conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, please refrain from clapping or other public demonstrations of support or opposition. The public hearing period shall not serve as a forum for debate with the board or a question and answer period with the board. Remarks shall be addressed only to the board and not to staff, the audience, or the media. All public comments shall be made in a respectful manner. Cursing and antagonistic behavior are prohibited and shall be grounds for removal from the meeting. Comments should focus on matters or issues before the board or county, specifically the public hearing listed on the agenda. Comments which single out an individual board member or staff may be ruled out of order by the chair. Each speaker shall clearly state his or her name and voting district if applicable. There shall be a time limit for each individual speaker of 3 minutes. No speaker shall address the board more than once during the public hearing period at any board meeting. The county administrator will time the speakers and notify them when their time has expired.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. All right, those are the rules. Mr. Fincham, we're going to start our first public hearing. Special Exception 07, 2014, Caroline County School Board, owner applicant. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing tonight is SPEX 07-2014, Caroline County School Board, owner and applicant, requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17 and Article 12 on tax map 55-A-16A, consisting of approximately 49 acres. The property is located at 19155 Rogers Clark Boulevard, which is the Caroline High School. The proposed request is to modify the front setback requirements to allow a 75-foot front setback when 150-foot setback is required by the ordinance. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this property as being in the rural preservation area with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres. The full staff report is included in your packet, as well as a schematic showing the proposed additions to the school and the encroachment into the required front setback. The school itself is actually a non-conforming structure in that the front setback currently is only 118 feet, where 150 feet is required by the current zoning ordinance. The proposed reduction to 75 feet would actually be an additional encroachment of 48 feet from where the current setback of the structure is located. Planning Commission held its public hearing on this request and initially deferred its recommendation to the board. There was a significant amount of discussion at the Planning Commission concerning the setback reduction, and the Planning Commission ultimately did make a recommended modification to the conditions to include the requirement for a physical barrier in addition to the landscaping and berm that were previously discussed in the application. The Planning Commission ultimately did forward this recommendation to the Board of Supervisors with a recommendation of approval.
Thank you, Mr. Fincham. You just, before you leave, you said the school itself now is a non-conforming structure,
Yes, sir.
but the school was built in 1975,
Correct.
and the zoning that took place was 79, or after that? Sometime after.
The current zoning ordinance for RP, I believe, was actually adopted in 1989.
89. So it's non-conforming because it's... was
Change in
built-
zoning.
It was built before the zoning changed.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're not going to make them tear down what's there already because it's non-conforming.
No, sir.
All right. Board members have any questions of Mr. Fincham at this time? Thank you very much, Mr. Fincham. We will now declare the public hearing to be open for Special Exception 07-2014. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Mrs. Carson?
Good evening. My name is Nancy Carson. I'm at the Mattaponi District. I'm speaking, I guess, for the board, or from myself from the board. I would like the, from the school board, not your board.
Mrs. Carson, thank you very much. You'll excuse the levity. I understand there's a great deal of tension building up in the room, and we're going to break it with that any way we can.
Okay, good.
So whenever you're ready, we'll start your time.
I'm ready.
Okay.
I would like the board to consider accepting what the Planning Commission voted and go with the variance. We are well aware of the safetyness of our children and protecting them as well as educating them, and we do not want any further setbacks so we can go ahead with the renovation and getting going so we can give the new school to our children and educate them there. So I would like you to consider in voting yes and accepting this variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Mr. Spaulding?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
I won't be long because I got a bad throat. I'm just here to support what Ms. Carson said about the variance in the front of the school. And we've been going over some things, and our architect thinks he can come up with something that will be stylish and so forth to go along with a boundary of some kind out there to give it some protection. But we also have those four or five huge trees that are out front too that won't be taken down. So that would be other protection and so forth out there. So we would appreciate if we go ahead and get this thing passed so we can get moving on with our building. Thank you.
Mrs. Spaulding, before you go, just for the record, would you state your name and your voting district?
George Spaulding, Bowling Green.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? I'm not sure that person wants to speak, but is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there? Well, it is a future student. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, we're going to declare the public hearing to be closed. Mr. Fincham? Questions for Mr. Fincham at this time? I have one. You mentioned the fact that additional physical barriers would be placed. That's condition number 3 that we have in our packet.
Yes, sir. I understand that there might be some desire to strengthen that language. related to the physical barrier.
Okay, well, it says, as approved by VDOT, or one of the other ones said it's approved by VDOT. But anyhow, what are we saying this physical barrier will be? We have any idea?
One of the planning commissions recommended that perhaps some round concrete balusters be installed in addition to the existing trees and other landscaping that might be installed. I don't think the planning commission, I think that was thrown out as an example or a suggestion of what could be done. I don't think the planning commission necessarily wanted to design that physical barrier for the school system. I think they felt that the school system or the school's architect should be the one charged with designing that improvement. Could be a wall. Understand we want it aesthetically pleasing, but you know, a concrete jersey barrier is a good solid design. I don't know that you necessarily want that in the front yard of your school.
Probably not what I would call aesthetically pleasing.
I understand.
But if we approve this now, does the planning commission have the authority to look at whatever that barrier is during the site plan process?
I think you would need to write that into the condition.
Okay. All righty. Mr. Seeley, questions? I'll start this way.
I guess this is for the building official. Have we seen a site plan that would give us any indication of what we might be able to do? And what is the actual setback? How many feet from the edge of the road will the actual building be if this were approved? So 2 questions. Because the diagram that we have is really, I mean, you can't tell from the edge of the road or from the trees or from the front of the building or...
I believe the number was 118 feet, Mr. Seeley. Because from the edge of pavement to the edge of the right-of-way, it's actually a fairly large right-of-way through there.
We don't know what that is?
Oh, I'm looking at the plan right now.
Center of mature trees, I got 40 feet.
Right, and then you're only...
143.
I couldn't get 143 doing the addition on this. It's on this. Because that didn't agree with what the diagram
Yeah.
actually...
The nearest travel lane was measured to be 143 feet.
From the front of the new building.
Yes.
No parking in front of the new building?
There is parking proposed in the front of the building, yes, sir.
So we would still have additional traffic across, just as we do now?
Yes. You would still have a design with a parking lot in the front of the building, just as currently exists at the school now. And there should be a schematic in your
Yeah,
plan.
that's what I'm looking at, was trying to do
Yes.
the math off of those numbers.
This is the parking lot right here.
Let me say it again, Mr. Fisher.
I think that's what we have.
In the circle?
It looks better on your computer.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. That's it.
You know, we ought
75
to-
feet to the front. Okay.
We ought to connect that computer so everybody can look on the screen. But they don't have all that. Oh, I do.
But it
You
says
can get on there, plug
75
your
feet
computer
plus
in.
68. That's where they're getting the 143.
Well, I was doing the math, he said it was minus 148 from 118, that's why none of these numbers match. So I'd just like to walk through where we're at, where we'll be. Because I've had a number of people say, why would we give them a variance on being closer to the road?
Per the calculations,
Okay,
you have a right-of-way line and you have the edge of pavement.
correct.
The proposed reduction is from the edge of the right-of-way. So right now, you're 118 feet from the edge of right-of-way
Okay,
with the current structure. They're requesting the setback be reduced to 75 feet, where the actual zoning ordinance requirement is 150 feet.
From the edge of the right-of-way.
Right. Our setbacks are measured from the right-of-way line.
Okay.
Because the existing structure is already non-conforming with respect to the current ordinance, the addition is encroaching an additional 48 feet. So you're reducing it from 118 feet where it is right now. The encroachment is an additional 48 feet, which is down to 75.
70 feet. Okay.
Okay?
Okay. 70.
Now, that setback is different from the edge of right-of-way. So the other number I referenced is not to the right-of-way line, it's to the edge of pavement line, where the current edge of pavement is. So that's where the discrepancy in those numbers are. The actual request is based upon the zoning setbacks to the edge of right-of-way.
Okay. I think Mr. Cully is trying to bring up a diagram that would...
We have it on our, it looks better on our computer. 4CHS, that's it.
Because it doesn't, when you look at the diagram we have in black and white, it's...
Just double click on it. Oh, no. Just double click on 4CHS.
I don't think it's got Adobe on here.
What kind of computer doesn't have Adobe on it?
It doesn't. It's a new one, evidently.
This app can't open?
Yeah, because it doesn't know what it is.
Okay, take 30 seconds and download Reader. Were you finished with your question?
I'm done, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Akers, you have questions?
Mr. Fitcher, certainly we want to give as much protection in front as we can, but my question is, what happens if we do not give them this additional reduction in the setback? What happens to the building? And what happens to what the school is wanting to do?
It would necessitate a redesign of the modifications to the high school.
Has Mr. Steeler was asked a few minutes ago about the site plan and all of those other things. So how far have they gotten along into the design of this part of the building? Is it something that they can change without drastically changing the cost, without changing what the schools are trying to do?
The building plan has been submitted and reviewed by the building department, and comments have already been sent back to the architect.
So that's basically complete with the exception of the revisions that they're wanting to do. So they would have to go back to square one for this side of the building or the front of the building and try to redesign something else.
Yes, sir. Which realistically also probably affects other
Parts of the
aspects of the design.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Fincham, I guess the question was, from the front of the school to the right-of-way, give me the distance to make sure we're all looking at apples to apples, to the road, excuse me.
Just take mine.
Because here you have 75 feet, I'm just, with the setback, is that correct? And that's where you're showing?
Right. The way we normally measure a setback, it's from the required setback is the minimum distance from the edge of the right-of-way, okay? Current zoning ordinance requires 150 feet of setback. The current structure
118, I got
is
that.
118.
I got that.
Okay? Their requested reduction is from 150 feet down to 75 feet, which would be an additional encroachment of 48 feet with the new addition in front of the existing facility.
What makes the total encroachment based on the zoning a total of 83 feet from the 150? Because they're already 35 feet.
Well, they're 118, so they're 32.
They're 32, excuse me.
Right, plus subtract 118 from 75, gives you the additional 38 feet. So,
right.
yes, sir.
Okay. So that's an 80-foot variance with their ass.
I don't think 75, 118.
Mr. Finch, maybe I'm lost here.
118.
75,
What is,
118
with
not
the
very
new
big.
plan in place, what is from the front of the new high school, if they get this design, from the front of the high school to where the traffic is on the road, how far are we talking about?
Just click OK.
Is it 75 feet? Is it 140?
No, it would,
143 feet?
traffic, you're talking about
On 207,
the closest travel lane,
right.
okay? That distance,
143?
yes, sir, I believe that's the correct number, 143 feet from the edge of pavement to where the new addition would be.
From the building to where the road is.
To the edge of pavement, yes,
And
sir.
what is it now? From the building to the road?
Let's see, add 38 feet, so it would be,
Well, let me ask you this question. How many schools on a 45, 55 mile an hour road are 143 feet? Has that even been looked at?
I could not answer that question, Mr. Black. We've not looked at other schools relative to the setback request.
Now, as far as maybe the building official can answer this, when they did the building project, the bond referendum money, is the money included for the berm or whatever they're going to do, as far as for protection of the school? Is money included in that?
Well, for those of you that saw it for an instant.
I don't know if money was included for a bulkhead or a barrier there or not. But talking with the architect today, their interpretation coming from the planning commission was that barrier being required, and they've already worked on it, and they are incorporating it into the plan. Yes, sir.
Because it's very, it's very ambiguous, number one. And, I mean, as far as it says berm, it says, you can be barrier. I mean, we don't have any idea what it's going to be, number one. Number two, has VDOT approved this? Has VDOT gotten word of this? I mean, as far as...
Yes, VDOT reviewed this as part of the technical review committee process and had no objections to the reduction in the setback.
Just out of curiosity, and I think Mr. Akers may have already mentioned, what is the cost of a redesign if they have to go back and do a redesign?
I couldn't even put a number on it. It'd be difficult because the setup of the school, what we are doing is expanding the administrative part out the front. That's where the administrative part is now. To set what we need on the front to the north side of the building where the industrial bays are would not work. It could work, but the design would be so costly because of exit travel distance and all the requirements for the occupancy of that on the bay side. On the east side of the building, we have more bays, we have the cafeteria, we have hallways, and then we have the gym. So it wouldn't flow with the function of the administrative stuff that's already up front. And then on the south side of the building, we have the gymnasium. So tying into that would not work. The design that they have submitted works with the existing condition at the school and expanding that and working within the dollars for the renovation.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I guess,
Mr. Underwood?
I guess just my concern is that we're going forward two steps in that. And we looked at the architectural plans and the approvals, and now we're going back and said we need another change. I think all this should be up front so we can compare apples to apples. I mean, to bring it here before this board in the 11th hour and say, you make a decision without all the facts, I think is a disservice.
You make a good point, Mr. Underwood. Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My concern is safety, which I'm sure that's everybody's concern. I see in number 4, as far as the recommendations, it says that the applicant shall install all improvements as determined by the Department of Transportation. So you're saying that VDOT has approved this change already?
VDOT was looking at the improvements in terms of, for example, additional turn lanes, deceleration lanes, et cetera. That's what that condition is intended to address, any road improvements or access improvements required by VDOT during the site plan process. It's not specifically geared towards the physical barrier that is a concern in condition number 3.
Okay.
It's only the road improvements themselves.
Okay. And I hear board members who still seem to have concerns. If this were for some reason not approved tonight, what does that do to the process? Does that stop the process? Does that, could other things be dealt with, and just where does that, what kind of situation or position does that put the school system in?
Well, we're in the site plan review process now. So while we can continue the review process, the site plan could not reach a point of approval without the board's approval of this requested modification. Now, in and of itself, that's not necessarily an issue. There are other review agencies that have to review the plans. That probably will take more than 30 days. So we could continue the review process, but we could not actually approve anything until the board acts on this request. And as was I guess asked earlier, if the board does not act on this request, then we would be in a position of having to redesign and start that process anew.
Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman, and I've heard what Mr. Underwood has said and other board members have said, and I'll agree. Has the process been a smooth process? Has it been something that we would have liked to have seen? Have there been problems along the way? Absolutely they have been, and nobody can deny that. Even the school system board, school board, or anyone else can deny that. That has happened. My concern is from the standpoint of, we've talked about this project possibly being over budget to begin with. I've heard those talks. We know that we have a definite amount of money that was approved through the bonds, the obligation bonds that the people of this county approved, and there's no more money available. So if we have to go back and redesign, or if the school board has to go back and redesign that building to comply with what we say we're going to require them to do, if we don't give this variance, then we're saying you have to go back and redesign. I just don't know if that serves any purpose to do those type of things. And we ask for additional information. What additional information can anyone provide? We've talked about the setbacks, and that's all we talked about tonight is the setback, as to where that stands. So I just, I'm concerned with that.
Mr. Chairman?
Mr. Black?
We are having 2-1-2s with the school board, right? Correct, over the next...
Mr. Seeley and I are meeting, as a matter of fact, with Mr. Spaulding and Mrs. Carson tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock.
May I make a suggestion that the 2 supervisors discuss this with the school board of some possible solutions or something that get some reinsertions from the school board as to, what is going to be done on the property?
I think that's what they're trying to tell us right now, is this is what's going to be done on the property.
Yeah.
But the thing for me, Mr. Chairman, is that it's very ambiguous. Yeah, we don't know whether they're going to be berms, whether they're going to be concrete barriers. We don't know.
Well, that's the one thing. I mean, the reality is, we borrowed the money almost a year ago. It's 50 weeks because we borrowed at our first meeting in December last year. All I have to show for $25 million is 2 groundbreakings. And it's really, I mean, we can't delay the project longer. We've already missed a perfect project that's on time and under budget, and of course done right. We're obviously going to miss on time. We have to do under budget because we don't have any more money. So we need to get it right. What we can do is put this extra step in to the process, as Mr. Fincham recommended, that they need site plan approval for all of the, I guess, safety features that will be included. I mean, that's really, it's either that or say redesign, and I think they've spent $1 million so far with the architect.
Mr. Chairman, the architect just advised Mr. Whiteman that a redesign would be 6 months and approximately $500,000.
Is the architect here? Oh, I didn't even see you, I'm sorry. Okay. Well, and we did spend $1 million with you so far, right? About 800,000? That's $1 million to me. That's $1 million to me. And I didn't even get a shovel. I got 2 ground breakings, I didn't even get a shovel. All right. Here we are now with basically a choice of saying, we don't like this, we don't like the process, redesign it, come back later, whatever reason. Or we can say, move on with the process, and we will double check with the site plan agreement. So that's really where you are. Now, what's the pleasure of the board?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Taylor.
the motion is in order. I move that we approve the request as it is presented by the school board, if I can get a second.
Second. With
Motion would include that the site plan approval and barriers be done by the planning commission and/or the board of supervisors. Planning commission normally does it, right?
The board can reserve that if it so desires. If you'd like to review the plans for the physical barriers and other landscaping, you could reserve that review for yourself.
Mr. Taylor, how would you like your motion to read? Site plan approval by the planning commission, which we're of course going to do, and/or the board of supervisors. Would you like to add the board into that approval process?
Quite honestly, I would be satisfied with the planning commission doing it.
Okay. So that is your motion
That
to
is our
include site plan. He's changing his motion to include site plan approval. Mr. Akers, you made the second. You also amend that?
Yes, I do, sir.
Okay. Is there discussion on the motion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. We'll, of course, discuss this with the schools tomorrow, but it has been approved. There won't be any redesign. Thank you. We will be done right and under budget. This is being videotaped. Okay.
You believe that, right?
Thank you very much. We will now move to special exception 02-2014.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing tonight is SPEX 02-2014.
Hold on one second. Sir, in the back, could you close that door for me, please? Okay, Ms. Fincham?
Your next public hearing tonight is SPEX 02-2014, Moss Neck Plantation Incorporated owner, Cheney Enterprises Limited Partnership applicant, requesting a special exception permit in accordance with Article 17, Section 13, and Article 4, Section 5.3 of the Caroline County zoning ordinance on a portion of tax parcels 4-A-10 and 4-A-10A, consisting of 544 acres more and less. The property is located at 18467 Moss Neck Manor Road, in the southwest quadrant of Tidewater Trail and Burma Road in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is sand and gravel extraction and sales. The 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this area as being located within the resource-sensitive overlay district and also designated as agricultural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 25 acres of land. You have the staff report in your packet. You also have, hopefully, all of the supplemental information, which includes the summary of the Planning Commission discussion on this matter and any materials that have been submitted to our department or the Planning Commission to date. There was extensive discussion of this application by the Planning Commission, extensive materials